Thanks for being with us here on Business Now. Let's take you now around the country and see how the weekend housing markets fared. The clearance rates, I can tell you, were a little lower than last week, but the number of homes up for auction is starting to ramp up for the spring selling season. Across the country, 1,749 auctions, 67% of them were sold. Sydney, to be fair, off a touch, 635 auctions, just 64% of those were cleared. But Melbourne, as we've reported, has roared back to life, 674 auctions there, also close on, 77% of those were sold. In Brisbane, 115 auctions, just under 54% of those were successful. In Adelaide, 62 auctions. It is off a bit here, which is unusual, 67.7% sold. Canberra, also strong, 34 auctions and almost 80% of those cleared. So let's bring in here Anne Flaherty, economist with REA Group. Anne, I want you to explain a conundrum to me today. If the government wants to make homes more affordable, won't its plan to allow first home buyers to get into the market with just a 5% deposit that they'll back push up demand and therefore push up prices?
Well, you are right, and we actually have plenty of evidence of this happening in the past. We know that when first home buyer demand is increased, it does typically lead to higher prices. You could say on the one hand that this scheme is good in the sense that it will enable more first home buyers to get into the market sooner. But of course, as you mentioned, the flip side to that is that it will increase demand, and even though we'll see people getting into the market sooner, they'll very likely be paying higher prices down the track.
Okay, because inevitably, if you get more demand, prices get pushed up. And even if you've got new developments out there, it gives the incentive to go and raise the prices for those new developments, which is really what developers want right now.
Yeah, and in fact, if we look at the cost of developing at the moment, the price point at which a lot of new developments are selling is already quite a bit higher than the established market. So even though we typically see more incentives for buying a new home, those new homes are typically selling at a higher price point anyway.
So were you a little surprised here, Anne, that the government didn't put a cap on the amount that a first home buyer can actually buy a home for? Like, they can go out there and buy a $5 million property if they like with a 5% deposit. The only thing is, and it'll be underwritten by the government, the only thing will be is that it's got to be their first home.
Well, we do have price caps coming in, but they have been expanded. What's particularly interesting is that income caps have basically been abolished. Any first home buyer who purchases a property within those income caps can get in without paying lender's mortgage insurance on a deposit as low as 5%. So this is very likely to lead to more first home buyers active in the market come October when this scheme is expanded. Initially, it wasn't going to be coming in until early next year. So I think what we're seeing is it's going to bring forward demand, which is already showing extremely strong signs of ramping up ahead of the spring season.
But the strange thing about this, I thought the solution to housing affordability was to build more homes, not to simply jack up the price of homes, because that almost seems almost counterintuitive to me that they would do it this way. But I know it's an election promise. I know they've now fulfilled that election promise. It just seems a little peculiar.
Well, it's sort of the story of home prices in Australia for a very long time, unfortunately. We have seen repeatedly the number of homes that we're building is not keeping up with the population growth. And unfortunately, a lot of the challenges we were seeing in the building and construction industry remain a massive problem today. In particular, we're continuing to see big shortfalls in labour. Those costs are still very high. And until we see a sort of normalisation in a lot of these things, it's very likely that we will continue to deliver fewer homes than we need to house our population.
And interest rate cuts that have already happened and coming now, that's only going to make the matters worse, not better.
Well, on the one hand, interest rates will mean that people can borrow more, which means that they can typically pay more for a home. That pushes prices up. One piece of good news, though, of course, is that for existing mortgage holders, it does make their mortgage repayments come down. And actually for the development sector, lower interest rates are good news. It can help to stimulate a little bit more development activity. Having said that, as I mentioned, a lot of those broader issues impacting developers at the moment still remain really important and are definitely holding back the things like dwelling approvals, construction starts. They're still not where we need them to be, but a lower interest rate will hopefully make some projects more feasible.
Anne Flaherty from REA Group. Always good to have in the program. Many thanks for your time today.
Thank you.